It was just another foggy Thursday morning in Portland, Oregon, until 17-year-old Mason Brooks spotted something impossible clinging to the Hawthorne Bridge. What his phone camera captured next didn't just save a life. It exposed a dark secret that would shake the entire city to its core. But before I reveal what really happened on that bridge, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your state in the comments below. I love hearing from fellow Americans who believe in real stories of courage. And if you think true heroes still exist in this world, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another incredible true story. Give this video a like if you believe in the power of compassion, and share it with someone who needs their faith in humanity restored today. Trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why thousands of people across America are still talking about what Mason discovered that morning. The clock on Mason's phone read 6:30 a.m. as his Nike sneakers pounded against the damp concrete of the Hawthorne Bridge. The Willamette River churned 30 feet below, its dark waters barely visible through the thick October fog that had rolled in overnight. This was Mason's sanctuary, his daily ritual that had kept him sane since that terrible night 2 years ago when the police knocked on their door with news about his father's accident. Running wasn't just exercise for Mason, it was therapy, meditation, and escape all rolled into one. His mother Sarah had worried at first about him running alone in the early morning darkness, but she understood that her son needed this. She was a nurse at Oregon Health and Science University Hospital, pulling 12-hour shifts that often started before dawn, and she knew all too well how grief could eat you alive if you didn't find a way to process it. For Mason, that processing happened one stride at a time, with his phone strapped to his arm recording every run so his track coach, Mr. Peterson, could analyze his form for the upcoming state championships in November. The bridge was eerily quiet that morning, emptier than usual. The fog was so dense that Mason could barely see 20 feet ahead, and the usual sounds of early morning Portland traffic were muffled to a distant hum. His breath came out in small clouds that immediately disappeared into the surrounding mist. He was in the zone, that perfect running state where his mind went blank and his body moved on autopilot, when he heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold and his steady pace falter. It was a whimper, high-pitched and desperate, barely audible over the sound of his footfalls and breathing. Mason slowed to a jog, then stopped completely, pulling out his earbuds. There it was again, a terrified cry that seemed to be coming from the edge of the bridge itself. His first thought was that someone was in trouble, maybe a jumper, and his heart began racing for an entirely different reason than exercise. Moving cautiously toward the sound, Mason peered through the fog, trying to locate its source. The orange safety barriers of the bridge emerged from the mist, and that's when he saw it, something that made absolutely no sense. Clinging to the outer rail of the bridge, its tiny paws wrapped desperately around the cold metal beam, was a golden retriever puppy that couldn't have been more than 8 weeks old. The puppy was soaking wet, its golden fur matted and dripping, trembling so violently that Mason could see it shaking even from 10 feet away. Its eyes, wide with pure terror, locked onto Mason's face with an expression of desperate hope that would haunt him for weeks to come. One wrong move, one slip of those tiny paws, and the puppy would plummet 30 feet into the churning river below. Mason's mind raced. How could a puppy possibly get there? The outer rail was separated from the walkway by a barrier specifically designed to prevent accidents or jumps. Someone would have had to deliberately place the puppy there, but who would do such a thing? And why? His hands trembling, Mason quickly pulled his phone from his armband and switched it from the run tracking app to video mode. If something went wrong, if he couldn't save the puppy, at least there would be evidence of what happened. As he started recording, holding the phone in one hand while slowly approaching the barrier, something else appeared in the frame that he didn't notice at the time, something that would later send chills down his mother's spine. About 50 yards away, barely visible through the swirling fog, stood a figure in a bright red hoodie. The person was perfectly still, just watching, and appeared to be holding something up, another phone, pointed directly at Mason and the puppy. When Mason instinctively glanced up from his screen to look in that direction, the figure quickly lowered their phone, turned, and walked away at a pace that seemed deliberately casual, as if they were trying not to draw attention. But Mason couldn't focus on the stranger right now. The puppy let out another pitiful cry, and one of its back paws slipped slightly on the wet metal. There was no time to call for help, no time to think about how bizarre this situation was. Mason reached the barrier and carefully climbed over it, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The morning fog swirled around him, and for a moment, he felt dizzy looking down at the dark water far below. "Hey buddy, hey there," Mason whispered in the most soothing voice he could manage, the same tone his mother had taught him to use when they volunteered together at the Portland Animal Shelter last summer. "I've got you. You're going to be okay. Just hold on for me, all right? Just a few more seconds." The puppy's terrified eyes never left Mason's face as he slowly, carefully reached through the rails. His phone, still recording in his other hand, captured every heart-stopping second as his fingers stretched toward the trembling animal. The metal was slick with moisture from the fog, and Mason had to hook his feet under the lower rail to keep himself stable. One wrong move and both he and the puppy could fall. His fingers finally made contact with the puppy's wet fur, and the little dog immediately tried to move toward him, nearly losing its grip in the process. Mason's heart stopped for a second before he managed to grab the puppy firmly around its tiny chest. With one smooth motion, he pulled it through the bars and clutched it against his body, backing away from the edge as quickly as he safely could. The puppy buried its face in Mason's chest, its whole body shaking with cold and fear. Mason could feel its rapid heartbeat against his own chest as he climbed back over the barrier to safety. It was then, as he stood on the walkway catching his breath, that his phone's camera caught something else, something metallic attached to the bridge rail just a few feet from where the puppy had been clinging. But Mason didn't see it then. He was too focused on the traumatized animal in his arms, too relieved that the rescue was successful, too confused by the whole situation to notice the small device with its ominous blinking red light. He quickly unzipped his track jacket and wrapped it around the shivering puppy, then began jogging home, his mind spinning with questions. Who would put a puppy in such a dangerous position? How long had it been there? And who was that person in the red hoodie? As Mason's footsteps echoed off the bridge and disappeared into the fog, his phone kept recording, capturing one final detail that would prove crucial: a white van pulling away from the bridge entrance, its license plate partially visible for just a fraction of a second. Mason Brooks thought he had just rescued an abandoned puppy, a simple act of kindness on a foggy morning. But what he had actually done was stumble into something much darker, much more calculated, and when his mother would see that video in just 15 minutes, she would recognize something in it that would change everything they thought they knew about social media, about trust, and about the lengths people would go to for fame and money. Mason burst through the front door of their modest Burnside District home like a man possessed, his breathing ragged not from the run but from the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. The puppy, still wrapped in his track jacket, had stopped shaking but remained pressed against his chest as if afraid to let go. The kitchen smelled of fresh coffee and scrambled eggs. His mother Sarah was at the stove, still in her OHSU scrubs, preparing a quick breakfast before her 7 o'clock shift. "Mom, you need to see this," Mason said breathlessly, his voice cracking with urgency. Sarah turned around, spatula still in hand, and her eyes immediately went wide at the sight of her son standing in the doorway, soaking wet from the fog, holding what appeared to be a drowned rat wrapped in his expensive track jacket. "Mason, honey, what on earth?" she began, but Mason was already moving toward her, gently placing the puppy on the kitchen counter while fumbling with his phone. Sarah's maternal instincts kicked in immediately. She grabbed a clean dish towel and began gently drying the puppy, checking its eyes, gums, and breathing. 20 years as an emergency room nurse had taught her to assess first, ask questions later. "I found him on the bridge, Mom. On the Hawthorne Bridge. He was clinging to the outer rail, about to fall into the river," Mason explained rapidly, his words tumbling over each other. "I got it all on video. I was recording my run when I heard him crying and, Mom, you need to watch this. Something's not right about this whole thing." Sarah continued examining the puppy as Mason held up his phone, starting the video from the beginning. At first, she was only half watching, more concerned with the animal's immediate health. The puppy appeared to be a purebred golden retriever, maybe 8 or 9 weeks old, malnourished but without any obvious injuries. Then Mason's voice on the video said something that made her look up sharply. "Wait, Mason, pause it. Go back 10 seconds, Sarah said, her voice suddenly tight with concern. She had seen something in the background, something that her son had missed while focused on the rescue. Mason rewound the video, and Sarah took the phone from his hands, bringing it close to her face. There it was, barely visible in the corner of the frame as Mason had panned his phone while climbing over the barrier, a small metallic box attached to the bridge rail, maybe 3 feet from where the puppy had been clinging. It had a tiny antenna and what was unmistakably a blinking red LED light. Sarah's face went pale as she recognized exactly what she was looking at. "That's a GPS tracker," she whispered, her voice barely audible. She grabbed Mason's arm, her grip tight enough to hurt. "Mason, someone put that puppy there deliberately. This wasn't an accident or abandonment, this was staged." The words hung in the air between them like a physical presence. Mason felt his stomach drop as the implications hit him. Someone had deliberately placed a helpless puppy in a life-threatening situation. But why? What possible reason could someone have for such cruelty? "There's more, Mom," Mason said quietly, taking the phone back and scrolling to a different part of the video. "Look here, in the background. See that person in the red hoodie? They were watching the whole thing. And look, they're filming too. When I looked up at them, they walked away, but not like they were scared or surprised. It was like they were done watching what they came to see." Sarah sank into one of the kitchen chairs, her mind racing. As an ER nurse, she had seen the worst of humanity, the accidents, the violence, the neglect. But this was different. This was calculated, planned, purposeful endangerment of an innocent animal. She looked at the puppy, now warmer and calmer, eating small pieces of scrambled egg that she had offered, and felt a surge of protective anger. "We need to call the police," she said firmly, reaching for her cell phone. "This is animal cruelty, and whoever did this needs to be caught before they do it again." But even as she dialed 911, a nagging thought tugged at her mind. The precision of the setup, the tracker, the person filming, this wasn't the work of someone acting on impulse. This was organized. Within 45 minutes, Detective James Mitchell was sitting in their living room, a tall African-American man in his 50s with kind eyes but a serious demeanor that suggested he had seen too much in his years on the Portland police force. He watched Mason's video 3 times, taking notes on a small tablet, occasionally asking Mason to pause or zoom in on certain frames. "Son, you did a brave thing this morning," Detective Mitchell said, but his expression was grim. "What you've stumbled onto here is something we've been tracking for the past month. This is the 4th incident we've had reported of animals being found in dangerous situations around Portland, always early in the morning, always in places where someone just happens to be passing by." Mason and Sarah exchanged worried glances. "4th incident?" Sarah asked. "You mean this has happened before?" Detective Mitchell nodded slowly. 2 weeks ago, a jogger found a kitten trapped in a storm drain on the Springwater corridor. Week before that, a cyclist discovered a rabbit caught in wire fencing at Laurelhurst Park. And just this Monday, a dog was found tied to the railroad tracks near the Brooklyn neighborhood, rescued just minutes before a freight train came through. Each time, witnesses reported seeing someone nearby filming with their phone, but they always disappeared before police arrived. "But why?" Mason asked, his voice filled with confusion and disgust. "Why would anyone do this?" Detective Mitchell pulled out his phone and showed them something that made everything click into place. Screenshots from various social media platforms showing viral videos of animal rescues, each with millions of views, thousands of comments, and most importantly, significant ad revenue markers and sponsorship deals displayed. Social media fame and money, the detective explained. These staged rescue videos can earn creators thousands of dollars in ad revenue, sponsorships, and donations from viewers who think they're supporting a hero. It's become a disturbing trend nationwide. People create dangerous situations for animals, film the rescue, and post it online as if they just happened to come across an animal in need. Sarah felt sick to her stomach. The puppy, now curled up in Mason's lap fast asleep, had been nothing more than a prop in someone's sick scheme for internet fame. But something still didn't add up. "Detective," Mason said slowly, something dawning on him. "If someone was staging this for a video, wouldn't they be the one doing the rescue? Why watch me do it? Why risk someone else getting the credit?" Detective Mitchell leaned forward, his expression darkening. "That's what worries me most about your video, son. Either they were planning to claim your footage as their own somehow, or—" He paused, seeming to weigh his words carefully. "Or they specifically wanted you to be the one to find that puppy. The GPS tracker suggests they were monitoring the situation remotely, waiting for the right person at the right time." A chill ran through the room. Mason thought about his regular morning routine, the same route every day, the same time. How long had someone been watching him, studying his patterns, waiting for the perfect morning to execute their plan? "We need to examine the puppy," Detective Mitchell said, standing up. "There might be a microchip that could lead us to whoever purchased or adopted him originally. Can you take him to a vet right away? I'll call ahead to VCA Northwest Animal Hospital and explain the situation. They'll scan him immediately." As Sarah went to get her car keys and Mason gently woke the sleeping puppy, Detective Mitchell made one more observation that sent ice through Mason's veins. "Mason, you said you run this route every morning for training, right? Same time, same path." When Mason nodded, the detective continued, "And you post about your training on social media. Instagram, maybe TikTok." Mason's face went white. He did post about his training, stories on Instagram, updates about his progress towards state championships, even screenshots of his running route from his fitness app. His account was public, with about 3,000 followers, mostly other runners and kids from school. Anyone could have been tracking his movements, planning this moment. "Check your followers," Detective Mitchell said quietly. "Especially anyone who's been particularly interested in your morning runs recently. Any new followers who've been asking questions about your route or schedule. Because Mason," he paused, his voice deadly serious, "I don't think you randomly found that puppy this morning. I think someone wanted you specifically to find it, and we need to figure out why before." He was interrupted by Mason's phone buzzing with a notification. It was a DM on Instagram from an account with no profile picture, just a default gray silhouette. Mason opened it with shaking hands and nearly dropped the phone. It was a video, a different angle of him rescuing the puppy that morning, clearly filmed by the person in the red hoodie. But it was the message underneath that made everyone in the room freeze. "Great job this morning, hero. You played your part perfectly. Check the news at noon. M.W." Sarah grabbed the phone, her face ashen. "M.W.? Who is M.W.?" But even as she asked, a terrible realization was dawning on Mason's face, a connection so impossible, so shocking that he couldn't bring himself to speak it out loud yet. Because those initials belonged to someone he knew, someone who had been in his life for months, someone he had trusted. The waiting room at VCA Northwest Animal Hospital smelled of disinfectant and fear, that unique combination that every pet owner knows too well. Mason sat rigid in the plastic chair, the puppy sleeping trustingly in his arms, while his mind raced through every person he knew with the initials M.W. His mother Sarah paced near the window, her phone pressed to her ear as she called in late to her shift for the first time in 3 years. Detective Mitchell stood by the reception desk, his badge visible, speaking in low tones with the veterinary staff. It was 9:47 a.m. now, just over 3 hours since Mason had pulled the puppy from the bridge, but it felt like days had passed. The Instagram message burned in his mind, "Check the news at noon." What was going to happen at noon? And more importantly, who was M.W.? Mason Brooks. A young veterinarian with kind brown eyes and a warm smile emerged from the examination room. Her name tag read Dr. Emily Rodriguez, and despite the circumstances, she approached them with a calming presence that immediately put the puppy at ease when he stirred in Mason's arms. "Detective Mitchell has briefed me on the situation. Let's see what we can find out about this little guy." The examination room was bright and clinical, but Dr. Rodriguez had a gentle way with the puppy that made Mason trust her immediately. She performed a thorough physical exam while Detective Mitchell recorded everything on his phone for evidence. The puppy was dehydrated and scared but otherwise unharmed, a small mercy in this twisted situation. "He's approximately 9 weeks old, definitely a purebred golden retriever," Dr. Rodriguez explained as she prepared the microchip scanner. "These puppies typically sell for $2,000 to $3,000 in the Portland area, so whoever did this made a significant investment just for a sick video stunt." The scanner beeped, and Dr. Rodriguez's expression shifted to confusion, then recognition, then something that looked unsettlingly like alarm. "Oh my God," she whispered, staring at the computer screen. "I know this puppy. I know exactly who he belongs to." Everyone in the room leaned forward. Dr. Rodriguez turned the monitor toward them, showing a detailed medical record. 2 weeks ago, October 3rd, someone brought in a litter of golden retriever puppies for their first vaccinations. 4 puppies total. I remember this one specifically because of his unique marking. Look here. She gently parted the fur on the puppy's chest, revealing a distinctive heart-shaped patch of darker gold fur. I even took a photo for our Instagram page because it was so perfect. The puppies were brought in by a young man, early 20s, very well dressed, said he was a breeder. What was his name? Detective Mitchell asked, his notebook ready. Dr. Rodriguez clicked through the computer records. Marcus Wellington. Address listed in the Pearl District. He paid in cash, which I remember thinking was unusual for such a large amount. He was very charming, very talkative. He mentioned he was some kind of social media influencer, Showed me his Instagram account with over 2 million followers. Mason's blood turned to ice. Marcus Wellington. MW. He knew that name. Everyone at Lincoln High School knew that name. Marcus Wellington was a Portland social media legend, a lifestyle influencer who had graduated from Lincoln 3 years ago and turned his Instagram and TikTok accounts into a full-time career. His content was all about Pacific Northwest living, coffee shops, hiking trails, adventure sports, and most famously, heartwarming encounters with animals. "Mom," Mason said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know who Marcus Wellington is. Everyone at school follows him. He's huge on social media. He does these videos where he randomly finds animals in need and helps them. They always go viral. People call him the Animal Angel of Portland." Sarah pulled out her phone and quickly found Marcus's Instagram profile. The most recent post, from just yesterday, showed Marcus at a local coffee shop, talking about the importance of kindness to animals. His feed was full of rescue videos: cats stuck in trees, birds with broken wings, dogs found wandering busy streets. Each video had millions of views, thousands of comments praising his compassion and generosity. "Detective," Sarah said slowly, scrolling through the posts with growing horror. "Look at the dates on these rescue videos. There's one almost every 2 weeks for the past 6 months. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern." Detective Mitchell was already on his radio, calling for backup and requesting a warrant for Marcus Wellington's address. But something was nagging at Mason, something that didn't quite fit. He pulled out his own phone and went to Marcus's profile, scrolling through the followers he and Marcus had in common. And then he saw it, a detail that made his stomach drop. "Oh no," Mason breathed. "Oh no, no, no." "What is it, honey?" Sarah asked, alarmed by the look on her son's face. Mason held up his phone with a shaking hand. There, in Marcus's recent stories from last week, was a photo from a Portland Trail Blazers game. Marcus was grinning at the camera, wearing an expensive jersey and holding up courtside tickets. But it wasn't Marcus that had caught Mason's attention, it was the person next to him. Tyler Chun, Mason's teammate from the track team, wearing the same red hoodie Mason had seen on the bridge that morning. "Tyler," Mason said, his voice hollow. "Tyler Chun from my track team. He's been training with me for months. He knows my exact running route, my schedule, everything. Last week he kept asking me about my morning runs, said he wanted to join me but could never make it that early. He even asked me to share my GPS route from my running app so he could practice on his own time." The room went silent as the full weight of the betrayal sank in. This wasn't just a random incident. Mason had been specifically targeted by someone he considered a friend, someone he trusted, someone who had used that trust to set him up for this morning's events. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been quietly listening while continuing her examination of the puppy, suddenly spoke up. "There's something else you need to see." She had been checking the puppy more thoroughly and found something tucked under his collar, a tiny, nearly invisible clear plastic device no bigger than a shirt button. "This is a mini camera. It's been recording this whole time." Detective Mitchell carefully bagged the device as evidence. "They wanted multiple angles," he said grimly. "The person in the red hoodie, Tyler, filming from the bridge, this camera on the puppy to capture the rescue up close, and probably more cameras we haven't found yet. This wasn't just about creating content, this was about creating a production." Mason felt sick. Every interaction with Tyler over the past few weeks took on a sinister new meaning. The friendly questions about his training, the interest in his route, the casual mentions of wanting to improve his own time, it had all been reconnaissance, gathering intelligence for this moment. "We need to move fast," Detective Mitchell said. "If they're planning something for noon, we have less than 2 hours. Mason, I need you to think, did Tyler ever mention Marcus to you? Any connection you can remember?" Mason racked his brain, and then it hit him. "The scholarship," he said suddenly. Last month, Tyler was complaining about losing out on the Morrison Athletic Scholarship. He said someone with connections got it instead of him, someone who barely even competed anymore but had a huge social media following that the university loved. He was really bitter about it. So this could be about revenge? Sarah asked. Or blackmail? Before anyone could answer, Mason's phone exploded with notifications. Dozens, then hundreds of Instagram and TikTok alerts flooding his screen. His video, the one he had recorded of the rescue, had been posted on Marcus Wellington's account without his permission. but it had been edited, brilliantly and professionally, with dramatic music, slow-motion effects, and Marcus's voice narrating over it as if he had been the one to save the puppy. The caption read, "This morning, I witnessed something incredible. A young hero risked everything to save an innocent life. But what you don't know is that this hero has a dark secret. Full expose at noon. The truth will shock you. Hashtag Animal Rescue, hashtag Portland Hero, hashtag Truth Revealed." The video already had 50,000 views and climbing. The comment section was going wild with speculation. But it was the pinned comment from Marcus himself that made everyone in the room freeze. "Mason Brooks isn't who you think he is. I have proof that will change everything. Noon PST. Be ready, Portland." "He's framing me for something," Mason said, his voice rising in panic. "But for what? I haven't done anything wrong." Detective Mitchell was already on his phone, barking orders to his team. Dr. Rodriguez was hurriedly making copies of all the puppy's medical records. Sarah pulled Mason close, her protective instincts in overdrive. But just as Detective Mitchell was about to speak, Tyler Chun walked through the clinic door, still wearing the red hoodie, his phone held up and recording. "Hey Mason," Tyler said with a sick smile. "Ready for your close-up? Because in about 90 minutes, you're going to be the most famous person in Portland. Just not in the way you thought." Behind Tyler, through the glass door, Mason could see 3 more people with cameras, all wearing red hoodies, all filming. And in the parking lot, a white van, the same one from the bridge that morning, sat idling with its side door open, revealing professional filming equipment and someone Mason recognized from school but never expected to see here. The trap hadn't been completed that morning on the bridge. The bridge had just been Act 1. And now, surrounded and outnumbered, with cameras rolling and the clock ticking toward noon, Mason realized with crystal clarity that he was still in the middle of Marcus Wellington's twisted production, and the real performance was just about to begin. Detective Mitchell's hand went to his service weapon in a movement so fast and instinctive that it made everyone in the clinic freeze. "Everyone filming, lower your phones now," he commanded, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from 23 years on the Portland police force. "Tyler Chun, you're interfering with an active criminal investigation. Step away from the door." But Tyler didn't move. His smile widened, and he held his phone higher, making sure the camera captured every angle of the confrontation. "Actually, Detective, we're documenting a public interest story. First Amendment, freedom of the press. Marcus has been very careful to make sure everything we're doing is technically legal. Well, almost everything." The casual way Tyler said those words, the smugness, the betrayal, hit Mason like a physical blow. This wasn't the same kid who had run drills with him after practice, who had laughed at his jokes in the locker room, who had claimed they were training partners working toward the same goals. This Tyler was a stranger wearing a familiar face, and the transformation was terrifying. "Why?" Mason asked, his voice cracking with emotion he couldn't suppress. "Tyler, why would you do this? What did I ever do to you?" For just a moment, something flickered across Tyler's face. Maybe guilt, maybe regret, but it was gone so quickly Mason thought he might have imagined it. "It's not personal, Mason. It's just business. Marcus pays well, and some of us can't all be golden boys with our perfect grades and our dead hero dads that everyone feels sorry for. Some of us have to actually work for what we want." Sarah made a sound like she'd been slapped, and Mason felt rage boil up inside him, hot and immediate. But before he could respond, Detective Mitchell stepped between them, his body language clearly communicating that this situation was seconds away from escalating into something dangerous. "Dr. Rodriguez, please take Mrs. Brooks and Mason into the back examination rooms and lock the door," the detective said quietly but firmly. "I'm calling for backup. Tyler, you and your friends are going to wait right here until officers arrive to sort this mess out." But Tyler was already backing toward the door, still filming. "Can't do that, Detective. We've got a deadline to meet. Noon's coming fast, and Portland is about to learn the truth about their so-called hero." He gestured to the people behind him, and they all began backing toward the white van. That's when everything happened at once. Detective Mitchell moved toward the door to block their exit, Dr. Rodriguez grabbed the puppy and ushered Sarah toward the back rooms, and Mason's phone began ringing with a video call from an unknown number. Without thinking, operating on pure instinct, Mason answered it. Marcus Wellington's face filled the screen, and even through the phone, Mason could see why 2 million people followed him. He was handsome in that effortless way that some people were, with perfect hair and a smile that seemed genuine even though Mason now knew it was anything but. He was sitting in what looked like a professional studio setup, ring lights visible in the background, expensive microphone positioned perfectly. Mason. Finally, we get to talk face to face, or well, face to screen, Marcus said with that same charming warmth that made his videos so popular. I've been looking forward to this conversation. You're probably wondering what's happening, why your morning took such a dramatic turn. You sick psychopath, Mason spat. You put that puppy in danger. You could have killed him. For what? Views? Money? Marcus's smile didn't waver. See, that's where you're wrong. I would never hurt an animal. I love animals. That puppy was never in any real danger. Tyler was positioned with safety equipment the whole time, ready to intervene if you didn't show up or if anything went wrong. The GPS tracker wasn't just tracking the puppy, it was monitoring wind speed, temperature, and his vital signs through sensors in his collar. We had backup plans for the backup plans. This was a professional operation. That doesn't make it right. Sarah's voice called from behind Mason, and he turned to see his mother had refused to go to the back room, standing instead with her arms crossed, her nurse's training making her assess threats and refuse to abandon her son. Mrs. Brooks, hello, Marcus said smoothly. I want you to know that your son is genuinely brave. His reaction this morning was authentic, heroic even. That's exactly why we chose him. See, I've been creating content for 3 years now, and I've learned something important: authenticity sells. People can spot fake emotion a mile away, but real fear, real courage, real compassion? That's the content that goes nuclear. Detective Mitchell had moved closer, listening to every word, his phone out recording this confession. Mr. Wellington, you're admitting to multiple counts of animal endangerment, conspiracy, harassment, and fraud. I suggest you stop talking and get yourself a lawyer. Marcus laughed, actually laughed. Detective Mitchell, right? I know all about you too. Did you know Portland PD's budget for animal crimes investigation is exactly $47,000 per year? Do you know how much I made last month for my rescue videos? $230,000. I have 6 lawyers on retainer, and they've assured me that everything I've done falls into a legal gray area that would take years to prosecute, if you even could. By then, I'll have made millions more. Mason felt sick listening to the cold calculation in Marcus's voice. This wasn't a person who had made a mistake or gotten carried away. This was someone who had turned cruelty into a business model and felt completely justified doing it. But here's the thing, Marcus continued, his tone shifting to something darker. That's not even why I called. See, the puppy rescue was just the opening act. What's coming at noon is the main event. Mason, do you remember 3 weeks ago when you were volunteering at the Portland Animal Shelter? Saturday afternoon, October 12th. Mason's blood ran cold. He did remember that day. It had been a busy Saturday, dozens of adoptions, volunteers everywhere, chaos and joy mixing together as animals found their forever homes. But he couldn't remember anything unusual happening, anything that would warrant this level of elaborate setup. I can see you're confused, Marcus said, his smile growing wider. Let me refresh your memory. You were processing paperwork for a German Shepherd adoption. Big dog, about 3 years old, named Duke. A family from Beaverton was adopting him, the Johnsons, nice people, 2 kids. You signed off on the adoption, gave them the dog, sent them home happy. Remember now. Mason did remember. The Johnsons had been so excited, their kids crying happy tears as they led Duke to their car. It had been one of those perfect moments that reminded him why he volunteered there in the first place. Yeah, I remember. So what? So the problem, Mason, is that Duke wasn't cleared for adoption. He had a bite history, 3 incidents in his previous home, including one with a child. The shelter director had specifically flagged his file as not approved for homes with children under 12. The Johnsons have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. You ignored the warning, or didn't see it, or didn't care. Either way, you sent a dangerous dog home with a family with young children. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Mason's mind raced back to that day, trying to remember the paperwork, the files, the procedures. Had there been a warning? He had processed so many adoptions that day, the shelter had been understaffed, things had been hectic. That's a lie, Sarah said firmly. Mason would never put children in danger. He's meticulous about following shelter protocols. Is it a lie? Marcus asked, and his phone camera flipped to show a computer screen displaying what looked like official shelter documentation. There was Duke's file, there was the red warning label clearly visible, and there was Mason's signature on the adoption form dated October 12th, certifying all safety checks were complete. At noon, I'm releasing a video exposing how Portland Animal Shelter's lax volunteer training and oversight led to a dangerous animal being placed with an unsuspecting family. Mason Brooks, the same hero who saved a puppy this morning, is the irresponsible volunteer who nearly got 2 children killed. Nearly got, wait, did something happen to those kids? Mason asked, his voice rising in panic. Marcus's pause was calculated, dramatic, perfectly timed for maximum emotional impact. Duke attacked the 7-year-old girl Sophia Johnson, 5 days after the adoption. She's currently at Dornbecher Children's Hospital with severe lacerations to her face and arm. 37 stitches. Possible permanent scarring. The family's lawyer is preparing a massive lawsuit against the shelter, and guess whose signature is all over the liability forms? The room spun. Mason couldn't breathe. A little girl was hurt, maybe permanently scarred, and his signature was on the forms that let it happen. I didn't. I never would have, if I had seen the warning. But you didn't see it, did you? Marcus pressed. Or maybe you did and you were too rushed, too careless, too eager to be the hero who found a dog his forever home. And now, in less than an hour, all of Portland is going to know that their morning hero is also responsible for a child's trauma. The cognitive dissonance is going to be beautiful content. Detective Mitchell grabbed the phone from Mason's shaking hands. If a child was attacked and you knew about it and didn't report it, Wellington, you're an accessory after the fact. And if you fabricated evidence to frame a minor, that's a whole other set of charges. Call Dornbecher, Marcus said calmly. Ask for patient Sophia Johnson, admitted October 17th. It's all real, detective. The only question is whether Mason's negligence was an honest mistake or something worse. My video at noon will let Portland decide. Oh, and Mason? Tyler's been recording you at the shelter for weeks. We have footage of you on your phone while processing adoptions, skipping steps in the safety protocols, rushing through paperwork. You're not going to look good. The call ended, and the screen went black, leaving Mason staring at his own reflection in the dark glass, barely recognizing the pale, terrified face looking back at him. Behind him, his mother stood frozen. Detective Mitchell was already on his radio calling the hospital to verify Marcus's claims, and through the clinic window, the white van was pulling away, Tyler visible in the passenger seat, still filming, capturing every moment of Mason's world falling apart. And then Dr. Rodriguez, who had been quiet during the entire exchange, said something that made everyone turn to stare at her in shock. That's impossible. Sophia Johnson couldn't have been attacked by Duke on October 17th, because Duke died on October 14th. I know because I'm the one who euthanized him. The silence that followed Dr. Rodriguez's words was deafening. Detective Mitchell was the first to break it, his voice sharp and focused. Say that again, Doctor. Slowly. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up her computer records, her hands moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who documented everything meticulously. Duke, German Shepherd, 3 years old. He was brought in on October 14th by the Johnsons, the family who had adopted him, because he had suddenly become lethargic and stopped eating. We discovered he had ingested rat poison, likely from their garage. Despite our best efforts, he died that evening at 7:43 p.m. I personally called the family to express condolences and waived all medical fees because they were devastated. There's no possible way Duke could have attacked anyone on October 17th, because he had been dead for 3 days. Mason felt like he could breathe again for the first time since Marcus's call. So the whole story about the little girl being attacked, that's completely fabricated? Call the hospital anyway, Detective Mitchell ordered one of the officers who had just arrived as backup. Check if there's any patient named Sophia Johnson admitted for dog bite injuries in the past month. He turned to Dr. Rodriguez. Can you send me all of Duke's records right now? Everything, adoption papers, medical files, euthanasia documentation, communications with the Johnson family. While Dr. Rodriguez worked, Mason's mind was racing in a different direction. Detective, it's 10:47. Marcus is planning to release his fake expose in just over an hour. If that video goes live, even if we prove it's fake later, The damage to my reputation and the shelter's reputation will already be done. We need to stop him before noon." Sarah grabbed her son's shoulders, looking him directly in the eyes with that fierce maternal intensity that had gotten them through his father's death and every hard day since. "Mason, listen to me. The truth is on your side. Dr. Rodriguez has proof. The hospital will confirm there's no Sophia Johnson, and Marcus Wellington is about to destroy himself with his own lies. We just need to get ahead of this story." That's when Mason had an idea, risky, possibly stupid, but the only move he could see. My video. The original rescue video from this morning. It's still on my phone, unedited, with timestamps proving when and where it happened. And I have the video of Marcus's call just now, where he basically confessed to staging the whole thing. What if we post it first? What if Portland sees the truth before Marcus can spin his lies? Detective Mitchell considered this, his expression grave. That could work, but it could also tip him off that we're onto his fabrication. We've got units heading to his Pearl District address right now, but if he runs... He won't run, Tyler's voice came from the doorway, and everyone spun around to see him standing there, but something was different. The smugness was gone, replaced with something that looked almost like shame. He had his hands raised in a gesture of surrender, and he was no longer filming. Marcus won't run because he genuinely believes he's untouchable. He's so convinced that his lawyers and his money can fix anything that he doesn't even see this falling apart. "Tyler, you need to leave before I arrest you," Detective Mitchell warned, his hand moving toward his handcuffs. "I know, and you probably should arrest me," Tyler said quietly. "But first, you need to know something. There is no Sophia Johnson. Marcus created fake hospital records, fake injury photos using makeup and a child actor, fake legal documents. He spent nearly $20,000 fabricating evidence for this story. He showed me everything this morning, and I thought..." Tyler's voice cracked. "I thought it was just going to be harmless content, you know? Stage a rescue, make it look dramatic, everyone moves on. But this? Destroying Mason's life with fake accusations? Framing him for hurting a kid who doesn't even exist? I can't be part of that." Sarah's nurse training kicked in as she noticed Tyler was shaking. "Sit down before you fall down," she said, not unkindly, guiding him to a chair. "You're having a panic attack. Breathe slowly." Tyler sat, his head in his hands. "I'm so sorry, Mason. I was jealous and stupid, and Marcus offered me $5,000 to help set you up, and I'm sorry. I have recordings of Marcus explaining the whole plan, talking about the fake evidence. It's all on my phone. You can have it." Detective Mitchell took Tyler's phone as evidence, and even as he read Tyler his rights and cuffed him, there was something almost gentle about it. "You're doing the right thing now, son. That counts for something, not everything, but something." The officer who had been calling the hospital returned. No patient named Sophia Johnson admitted for any injuries in the past 6 months. No dog attack cases involving children at all in that time frame. Everything was falling into place, but they were running out of time. It was 11:09 a.m., and Marcus's video was scheduled to drop in 51 minutes. Mason made a decision. He opened Instagram, loaded his original unedited rescue video, and started typing a caption that laid out everything: the staged rescue, the GPS tracker, the person filming from the bridge, the fake accusations about the shelter, Marcus's confession on video call, and the truth that Duke had died 3 days before he allegedly attacked anyone. "Mason, wait," Detective Mitchell said. "If you post that now, it could compromise our investigation." "If I don't post it now, Marcus destroys innocent people at noon," Mason countered. "The shelter, me, the volunteers, even a fake little girl who he's using for sympathy. This ends now." Sarah squeezed his shoulder in support. "Post it, honey. Tell the truth." Mason hit share at 11:14 a.m., and then did something he'd learned from watching Marcus's manipulative tactics. He tagged every major Portland news outlet, every local influencer, every community organization, and used every trending hashtag he could think of. Then he did one more thing. He went live on Instagram, holding the puppy in his arms, and started talking directly to his 3,000 followers and whoever else would listen. "My name is Mason Brooks, and this morning I saved a puppy that someone deliberately put in danger for social media content," he began, his voice steady despite his shaking hands. "But that's not the whole story. The whole story is about how far people will go for views, for money, for fame that isn't real. And it's about how we need to start questioning what we see online, because not everything that looks like heroism is real, and not every accusation is true. Within minutes, his live stream had hundreds of viewers, then thousands. Local news stations began calling the clinic. Detective Mitchell's phone was ringing non-stop with calls from his superiors. And somewhere in the Pearl District, Marcus Wellington was watching his carefully constructed plan unravel in real time. At 11:47 a.m., 13 minutes before Marcus's scheduled video release, Portland police entered his apartment and found exactly what Tyler had described: fake documents, photos of the injured child who was actually a young actress Marcus had hired, and most damning of all, detailed spreadsheets calculating the projected revenue from the controversy he was planning to manufacture. Marcus Wellington was arrested at 11:52 a.m. on charges of fraud, animal endangerment, conspiracy, and harassment. His 2 million follower empire began crumbling immediately as sponsors dropped him and platforms suspended his accounts. Tyler Chun was charged with conspiracy and animal endangerment, but was offered a plea deal in exchange for his testimony and cooperation. He was expelled from Lincoln High School and sentenced to 200 hours of community service at the Portland Animal Shelter, where he would spend months seeing firsthand the damage that exploitation and cruelty caused. But the real story wasn't about Marcus's fall or Tyler's redemption. It was about what happened next. Mason's video didn't just go viral. It sparked a national conversation about staged rescue content and animal welfare. The Portland Animal Shelter received over $78,000 in donations in just 72 hours. News outlets across the country picked up the story, praising Mason's genuine heroism while exposing the dark side of social media manipulation. And the puppy, Mason named him Chance, because that's what the whole morning had been: a chance encounter that revealed so much truth, became a certified therapy dog. Mason and Sarah trained him together, and within a year, Chance was visiting Oregon Health and Science University Hospital where Sarah worked, bringing comfort to patients who needed hope. 6 months later, Mason stood at the Hawthorne Bridge early one morning, this time with his mother and Chance beside him. The local news was there, filming a follow-up story, but this time everyone knew exactly what was being recorded and why. Mason had started a nonprofit called Real Heroes that taught teenagers how to identify staged content, verify information online, and understand the difference between authentic compassion and manufactured emotion. That morning taught me that real heroism isn't about cameras or views or making yourself look good, Mason told the reporter. It's about doing the right thing even when you think nobody's watching. Because the truth is, somebody is always watching: your conscience, your community, the people whose lives you touch. And that matters more than any viral video ever could. Sarah watched her son speak with tears in her eyes, not tears of fear or anger like that terrible morning months ago, but tears of pride. Because that morning on the bridge hadn't just revealed who Marcus Wellington really was, it had revealed who Mason had always been: genuinely, authentically heroic, with or without a camera. If this story touched your heart, then you're part of the solution. Join our community of people who believe in real kindness, authentic compassion, and holding accountable those who exploit innocence for profit. Hit that like button to help this message reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss another true story that restores your faith in humanity. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that real heroes still exist. And tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed authentic heroism when nobody was watching? Your stories matter. Your voice matters. Together, we can celebrate what's real and reject what's fake. Because in the end, the truth always matters more than the views. Thank you for being here, thank you for caring, and I'll see you in the next story that proves humanity is still worth believing in.